Hi everybody. This week we're doing another video runecast and we are moving into the half-month rune of Kenaz, and we will be in Kenaz through the 28th of September. So this week the half-month rune is Kenaz, and we are in this rune until the 28th of September. Kenaz is interpreted as torch or boil, as in a really, really sore, irritating place. But the thing that both of these meanings have in common is light and also like irritation, as in inflammation, as in this tiny fire that drives you bananas. You can't ignore it. And the thing that I find significant about Kenaz is how it's in relationship with the runes around it. So we go through this sort of mini formula with Ansus, Raido, and Kenaz. With Ansus, we discover that we have a truth, and we discover that we have life force. The whole first et is this experience of realizing we are soul in form and what that means. And at the beginning of the first et, we're coming at that from this really innocent sense of wonder. And then we kind of move into the first few runes that are how we ground that into body, and like literally, like, wow, I have a body, I can do things, I am consciousness. And when we come back into this series of Ansus, Raido, and Kenaz, we're coming back to that with more purpose. We're coming back to that realization that, okay, I'm exploring what it means to have a body, but I'm still partly unseen. I'm still partly rooted in some other experience beyond that. And so we have this experience with Ansus of discovering our truth, and that truth is carried on life force that's rooted into something bigger than us. With Raido, we discover that truth needs movement. It requires it to grow. It's not stagnant. It has to move in the world, and as it moves in the world, our truth changes, which means we change. By the time we get to Kenaz, the moment of that is, okay, I have this fire in me. I have this little irritating quality that has something to do with my truth. It has something to do with it being in the world, and I need to know what that is. And from my perspective, that animistic look at Kenaz is, what are we going to do with our calling? The realization that we have a calling and that we're supposed to do something with it that is equally moving out in the world. And so Kenaz has this sort of aha quality, this discovery of meaning, this discovery that this irritation that we're experiencing is leading to something. It's supposed to lead to something. And so we're charged with figuring out what that is. What is our calling? What are we doing here? What do we do with it? And even when we come to it from that very personal lens of like, this is my calling, what do I do with it? How do I take action in the world? We're building to this understanding that our calling isn't for us. It's for everybody else. It's the gift that we bring to our community, to our descendants. So there's this quality of Kenaz that's looking a little bit forward, and it's curious, it's adventurous, and there's an element of surprise in it, of understanding what we're doing here and what we're going to do with our time here. All right, let's see what our modifying rune is. We have, well, it technically is reversed. We have Mannaz reversed. So we had Mannaz last week, did we not? Sometime in the last 2 weeks. And Mannaz means It's the point, so it's a third et rune, and it means the point that we have to bring something that is cherished to us into a new social group, or into a social group in a new way. It's the human rune, like it signifies us as humanity, and it also indicates places where we need mental engagement with other humans. It's a coming out rune in my vernacular because it's this point that a part of us needs expression. It cannot be contained. We cannot keep it to ourselves. We're probably not supposed to keep it to ourselves. And so we seek out a social group that can support it. We seek out a social group that can hear what we're saying and see us and believe us and accept our experience as a human as credible. Whenever Mannaz is reversed, there's something in that relational experience that probably isn't going to go to plan. I don't think it necessarily has to mean you're not going to find that group, but maybe you need to behave as if you're not going to find that group. Small, subtle difference. It can also mean that we need to come at it a different way, that it's not so much that we aren't going to have a group that supports us, but something around it isn't quite what it appears to be. We need to sit with what we think we need from other people. We need to clarify why it is that we would be searching out a new group. And in this sort of experience we've had moving into this first et in this runic cycle, so much of the emphasis has been on how our body leads in telling our truth, or even in revealing our truth to us. And so I kind of just see this as a cautionary, come back to that. Like what is body at peace with from a social standpoint? And really listen to that, really hone in on who body is comfortable with. I feel like a lot of times we choose our social groupings based on commonality, which is a mental pursuit, so like not outside the realm of Mannaz, but our relationship with the way the first et has been revealing itself this cycle has been about what body says is true. So I'm thinking there's a connection into this reversal that's saying maybe it's less mental. Maybe we do still need social interaction. We do still need people who support this truth, but body is going to be the determiner of what that social group is, rather than being led by a hobby or an interest or something philosophical. The direction that raises its hand this week is within. And this is our spirit doll. I don't always know if this conveys in the writing when I write the runecast, but within to me has levels. It literally means the cave-like spaces in my relationship to the directions. And it's the cave-like spaces within Earth, like the negative spaces and what they have to say, literally the inner structures of Earth and the inner wisdom of Earth, which I think is really different than how we experience our lives on the surface. And so, like, how you delve into what that means for you is relevant to this runecast. And also, I feel like within is within each of us. And the within each of us is in direct relationship with inner Earth in ways that at a mental level and quite possibly emotional level, like we don't know that. We're not aware of inner Earth at a conscious level, but our bodies are. At an elemental level, our bodies are aware, and our inner unconscious is aware of those cave-like times and spaces of inner Earth. So there's some kind of relationality there that might want to be explored this week, I feel like within speaks to our most direct experience of being here, of being on and in Midgard. And so how we experience that direct relationship is very, for me at least, very body led. And I come back to this reversal of Mannaz and think maybe Earth and Earth Soul, Inner Earth, is the community that we need to be seeking this week. It's not just the direction that forms the container that keeps us safe for whatever work we're doing this week, but it may well also be this community that can help us find whatever meaning in calling we're looking for, or maybe even a step back, like maybe to really refine what our calling needs to be at this point in our lives. Maybe appealing to Earth Soul or Earth Parent, however you reference that, and how that's in relationship with your inner cosmology would be helpful in clarifying what's happening with calling this week. So this is new, and I had to get creative to work this out. But when I sat with what element, it was electricity. And electricity kind of presents as this combination, or at least like an expression of fire that is coupled with other elements in terms of how it behaves. And the thing that I got immediately from electricity, again, is this experience of our life force, which like is the absolute substance of our truth. And our life force moving through our body is what helps us convey this so that the aha of calling can happen. So there's an internal aspect of electricity just as much as there's an external aspect of electricity. And when I think of that, like I think of electricity being carried by water in a storm, or being carried by metal. And I think of Thor and Mjolnir, and how when Thor slams Mjolnir down, it's to bring our awareness back to sacred order. So I feel like there's some little lesson in how electricity can help bring us back, maybe to internal sacred order, to within our own version of sacred order within us, and kind of coming back to that as counsel for any clarification that's needed with Kenaz, with calling, with what we're doing with our time here. I also feel like back to the internal aspect, the within aspect of ourselves, at a literally physical level and energetic level. Electricity brings our awareness back to our parasympathetic functioning, the aspects of how we manage to body, to soul and form, and we don't have to think about it. They're automatic functions that just play out. And maybe even coming to some of those functions like breathing, like the neurons firing, like muscles moving, coming back to what a freaking miracle that is. And the relationality of those aspects of your body are beings. And maybe there is conversation to be had with those beings, with those aspects of yourself that literally fire because electricity in your brain tells them to, and you don't have to control it. There may be something in that, in the other aspects of life that you don't have to control, or clarification on the ones that you do. There could be some eliminating of things from your plate, coming back to what electricity actually does for you in your own body, so that you can reframe your priorities around calling and what you need out of the support for your calling. The season that we're moving in, I don't know where to put things, is summer. And curious, it's even when it has been intuitively derived, how frequently summer has come up. And living in a place where summer has dialed in totally in terms of severity and longevity and the wobble of its timing, it comes sooner and it lasts longer. I feel like summer is a strong ally, even as kind of scary as it is in its severity. It's a strong ally in helping us to acclimate to the change of the whole experience of seasonality on the planet right now. So, I mean, yes, summer represents the good times and the family gatherings and the community celebrations for holidays, holy days that happen during this time of year. But I also feel like it's asking us to pay really close attention to what our immediate experience of this season is and to learn things that we don't even necessarily know we're going to need for how we experience summer going forward, but to just be really grounded and paying attention to your ecosystem in the present. The earthly helping spirit with us this week is Seashell. And this particular one is from Greenaway Beach in England. And it's my daughter gave this one to me. Seashell reminds us of all the ways that we can morph into whatever we need, how we are shaped by elements around us, and we use the elements within us to shape what we need. And when we sit with how much agency that implies, we still come back to the realization that we're still us. Like, no matter how we need to shape ourselves or how we need to exert our will over the space around us to be able to survive, we are ultimately still us. And there's also this peacefulness that we're surrounded by tranquility. Like, if we can tap into it, if we can come back to this oceanic awareness of water and being held, this place that we all originally come from, and learn to tap back into that as we need to feel supported through all of this awareness that we're here, we have something to do, and we have all these resources at our disposal to help us figure out how to do it. The Galder that we're working with this week includes Ken, Kenna, Kaun, Kauna, Kane, Kana, and also Ma, Man, Mana. How you need to express the Galder is as unique as you are. And for me, the goal with working with Galder is feeling the resonance that rune and my breath bring in my body. We're talking about vagus nerve stimulation and the cueing of really specific sounds to generate different responses along that line. This is my own experience of Galder as vagus nerve stimulation. No, this isn't written down anywhere except for where I've written it down, as far as I know. So maybe part of our exercises together can be decoding what different Galder sounds bring us in our body relationship. For me, this is what comes up in that body relationship. Kenna Mannaz, 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 Kenna Mannaz. most of the time when I galder, it's very specific. It's rarely vague and open-ended, but it's usually specific to one experience of my energy body. And this time I felt like there was a feedback loop happening between my heart space, that heart valve, and my third eye specifically. I don't think there's a third eye correlation. There's just an overall crown correlation in the notations of vels in Old Norse literature. But it was very specific to third eye, like not the whole crown. And for me, and my understanding of these energy bridges in the body, the heart, I experience different levels of heart bridges. First of all, different heart chakras. I experience the heart chakra, which is like the main one that everybody talks about in the base Hindu system, at least according to the internet. And it's where we give love. But I also experience a secondary heart chakra that's called like the high heart chakra, and it's closer to the collarbones. It's a slightly different color, it's teal, and it's how we receive love. Whole different ballgame. So this one was the primary heart chakra, just like the regular heart chakra. And for me, the third eye is like everybody says that's where your intuition is. It's where you activate and become intuitive about how you move in the world. But for me, it's one step more than that. It is how I synthesize the experience of being an intuitive person, having that unseen experience and the grounded five sense experience. It's not just like my floating around intuitive self, it's the synthesis of both of those experiences and what I'm doing with them. I don't hear that part of it drawn out necessarily in the way that most people talk about the third eye. It's purely the extrasensory part. But I experience it as where the extrasensory part comes into the body meat suit part and must be computed in a way that I move in the world. Like it's not just this information that's floating around. So I'm required to function from both of those places. And that, as the feedback loop that's happening in the Scalder, is really important because I feel like I've had so much change at an energetic level, particularly since we got home from this trip early in the spring. So much of how I experience the way my perception works at all levels is changing, and the Scalder feels very supportive of facilitating that change and also helping it settle into new intuition that I now have new synthesis of how I move in the world. I would love to hear how this Galder works for you and how this runecast speaks to you. And thank you. Thank you for all you do in the world.